big news in merger world, in news world, in media world, an activist now targeting News Corporation, the Murdoch family's company, according to the Wall Street Journal, of course, owned by News Corp. Starboard has built now a stake in the media company, plans to push for changes, including doing away with the News Corp's dual-class structure. With us this morning is Ben Smith, Semaphor's co-founder and editor-in-chief and media denzian and all sorts of other things. Ben, does this make any sense to you whatsoever? Is there any chance in a million years that the Murdochs are going to say to the activists, great, come on in?
You know, it doesn't make that much sense for the reason that you suggest, which is the Murdochs. There's a dual class stock, and the Murdochs control the company, and activists, for obvious reasons, usually stay out of companies like that. You know, there are lots of, I think, broad criticisms of both the governance and the operations of News Corp, and I think a belief in the industry that the Wall Street Journal, which is the jewel in its crown, really could be better run and more valuable. But it's not really clear what Jeff Smith and Starboard Value can do to get the attention of, you know, Rupert Murdoch and Lachlan Murdoch and get them to do anything.
Part of this, Ben, it seems to me, is a multiple story, which is if you look at the Wall Street Journal or the News Corporation, you look at their multiple and you look at that against, for example, the New York Times, and there is a massive delta, if you will, in terms of the two companies. Of course, I write from the New York Times. I should say that out loud, for those who don't know. But the point is that one of the things that Starboard looks at, now, by the way, the New York Times says dual class structure too, is they're saying that maybe they'd capture that higher multiple if they didn't have this real estate business and if they were somehow different. The question is, what does somehow different look like, and how important is that real estate business?
You know, there's a fair amount of debate about the real estate business. I think the Journal looked at selling parts of it last year, or the News Corp did, and didn't succeed in doing that. And it's not just right. There's a real, sort of digital real estate business, Realtor.com, that I think people forget about actually, but is a fair amount of the company's value. Business. Yeah, absolutely. And then there's Dow Jones, which is the Journal and some other stuff. It's the Dow Jones Newswires, it's Barron's, and that isn't. We actually don't know what the Journal's numbers are. It's assumed, and I think obviously, the most valuable part of the business, but it's just not actually clear from the outside how it's going over there because it's within Dow Jones. And so, but from the, I mean, you know, this is an activist who has been very aggressive in the past, kind of famous for taking over the Olive Garden's parent company after this huge public campaign that included complaints about the pasta not being salty enough. But
here's an idea.
There's no sort of technical path to control here.
And so what do you think they're really after? Because one of the observations I made to Becky was maybe really they think that if there's just a public campaign around this real estate piece, that if you could just spin that piece off, maybe you could capture some kind of higher multiple. Maybe that's one or two turns. Maybe.
I mean, I think that's the most logical answer. Like, the most entertaining answer is that there is, you know, in the background of this, a huge Succession-style family drama and a wing of the family that also would like control and is circling. And you have to wonder, are they talking to James Murdoch? Have they even, you know, gotten his advice about how he would like to structure the company? And you know, I reached out to a spokesperson last night who didn't get back to me on that. But I think that's certainly in the background of this.
Well,
that
can we talk about that? Let's
situation.
Take the background and make it the foreground. The problem is, of course, it doesn't really come to the foreground until there would be some kind of momentous event, and I'm not sure, you know.
Let's just lay it out. If Rupert's not calling the shots.
If Rupert's not calling the shots, but the issue is that Rupert's calling the shots.
Right.
And it seems to me that Lachlan is going to be doing, I mean, Rupert is, I think, very happy with Lachlan at the head of this thing. The question is whether Lachlan wants to do this. Obviously, there's been lots of speculation about whether he likes any of these businesses.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's right, when Rupert is in his 90s, Lachlan spends a lot of his time in Australia. These aren't people who are necessarily interested in public pressure or subject to it at all. And I think media reporters have, spent entire careers writing stories about what would happen after Rupert Murdoch passed away. I mean, people live a long time these days. But on the other hand, Lachlan is a new CEO who I think, has faced a lot of questions, particularly at Fox Corp, which he ran, about how hands-on he was, about his ability to make moves and run the company. And maybe there's an argument that, he is the new CEO and could take some dramatic steps like this and impress, impress the markets, maybe just sort of impress people with his presence, which so far has been kind of hard to pin down.
Hey, Ben, I just think of Rupert Murdoch not liking to ever be told what to do. And if somebody comes in and puts this kind of pressure on him, even if he was thinking about selling the real estate stuff, I wonder if he says, forget it, because you're not going to pressure me or make me do this.
Yeah, hard to imagine anyone less interested in what an activist investor has to say.
Yeah, agree.